Hello, and welcome back to another episode with us on the PlantFueled Femme. We have Lindsey Spivey is back with us. Lindsey is a menopause specialist and a nutrition counselor. And today we are going to dive into the topic of detoxification. So thank you again for joining us, Lindsey. I am really looking forward to having a conversation.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed my time here last time, so I'm excited to meet with you again.
Yeah, no, this is great. I think it's wonderful when we can, come together and we all come from different walks, different perspectives, but there's always like core values and core education. And when those really align, it makes for really good conversations. I think we got that going on.
Definitely.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So I do want to dive into detox a little bit because I don't know about you, but like I get women that come in or even that just will message me like on Facebook or Instagram or something, and they're like, "Hey, I think I need a detox. What should I do?" And that's like such a loaded question. Do you get that?
I get that a lot, and not just from clients, but in life, people are always saying, "Oh, I'm doing this detox. What do you think?" Or "What do you think about this or that?" Because there's like a million ways to cleanse and detox, and like you said, this is actually a really complex pathway and can be like you can't answer it in a text message or sometimes people send me a kit that they've just bought and they're getting ready to try and like want me to give them all the information. I'm like, oh, okay, let me see what I can do here. So yeah, it's a big question.
Right. Right. And I think like with those detox kits, like I've seen them, in like the natural food store, and I think like Amazon has them even, and they're pretty rampant on Instagram, at least in my feed.
Yeah.
But in my experience, most of those are like maybe some dandelion and some milk thistle, and then like senna or psyllium husk, or some aloe vera juice, something that is going to just clean you out. And I mean, I guess that's cool if constipation was an issue, but it's not. It's not doing a whole lot to detox you.
Yeah, I think there's a big misconception because when you look at those particular products, and there's so many different ones, but speaking to what you just said, that's really phase three elimination. And that doesn't really look at phase one and two elimination when we think about liver detox. And of course, our cells can detox in lots of different ways, through sweating and all different things. But our liver is kind of the powerhouse when we think about detoxing. And so, like, yes, milk thistle, that can be good if we have a lot of built up toxins. But if we don't have a lot of cofactors on board, most people tend to just feel miserable when they start detoxing. Either they're only looking at phase three, where they're just trying to eliminate. So that's like the psyllium and all that stuff. Or they've kind of started phase one where they've released toxins that are caught up in the cell through the liver and they start to feel really bad, right? So they're pushing into phase two and then they stop, like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so terrible. Like, and then they stop. Then all those toxins are reabsorbed and recirculated because it's the way our body works, right? It takes a lot of energy to make those things and process them in the body. So our body isn't just going to then get rid of them. So usually people don't win when they detox on their own unless they're working with a professional or they're doing something specific that is kind of timed and I would also say having a lot of patience with detoxing instead of those ones where it's like, oh, I'm going to go on a week and then you're just like, oh, you kill yourself.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And truly, I mean, if you're going to think about detoxification, I'm not sure that, it's even realistic to expect to detox, 30 years of garbage in a week.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, and that's a big thing out on social right now. And I've been seeing a ton of stuff on, parasites and all these things. And it's kind of like, okay, I think that conceptually it can be great, but
Mhm.
it's so much more complex than just like, putting drops in your water in the morning or
Yes.
eliminating whole food groups. And I think there's points and purposes, but it can tend to be kind of like the devil's in the
Mhm.
details on specific detox, why we're doing it. But yeah, if you're gonna kind of destroy your body and particularly like in menopause or in perimenopause, maybe you've had poor lifestyle and lifestyle factors, and perimenopause really forces you to address it and then trying to kind of get it all at one time. You're right. It's like, whoa, that you can't repair that much damage in a 1 week or even a 1 month detox.
Mhm.
And so I always like to think about how can we detox every day, like, and put the things in our body needs and help our liver eliminate and our gut eliminate, and sweating and lymphatic system and kind of all the things our body needs to do in order to truly grab our health and get our health back online. Um,
Right. No, I think that's a much better, much more holistic approach, and probably even preventative too, if you're looking at things on a day-to-day basis rather than, letting it pile up over the years. But going back to what you said kind of in the beginning here, you mentioned that a lot of the detox kits that are on the market right now are the stage 3 detoxification. So maybe for our listeners, we should back it up and like go over like what is stage 1 and what is phase 2 of detoxification.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so, usually, phase 1 is when maybe we've started to detox or we've started to eat healthier, or we're taking a supplement that's trying to help our body a little bit. And we really, phase 1 is what we really think of in the liver as activation. So, we're going to activate cytochrome P450, which is one of our main detox pathways for phase 1 in the liver. And we need some B vitamins at this point on board. And other cofactors are going to help. Other vitamins and minerals are going to help. So once we kind of activate that, whether we're talking about hormones or other toxic things that our bodies are trying to get rid of, we really want to turn it into an intermediate so we can move into phase 2 where we can neutralize it. So that's really talking about taking either hormones and whatever those metabolites are and toxins that are coming through and turning them into something our body can actually excrete and make them more neutral. This is really the phase when, and I know we spoke about this before we came on, when we think about methylation, where we need to have a lot of methylated B vitamins. And methylated B vitamins are important in this whole cycle, but particularly folate and B12, B5, B6. And we also want to see some like sulfur amino acids in this place, magnesium, things that are helping produce antioxidants, right? So maybe stimulate glutathione, which is going to be other amino acids. So we can really start to neutralize these toxins. Um, and then this is where we really look at phase 3, where these toxins are taken from our liver, these metabolites, and excreted out into our gut. And this is where we really need to have like water and fiber and things that can bind up these toxins and push them out through excretion, right? Whether, that's like if you have good bowel movements, right? That most people know, like if I'm constipated or I have diarrhea, this isn't going to be a healthy place. Your phase 3 is having major problems. And so that's kind of like a really light look. There's a lot of things kind of going on in this, but generally speaking, when people are starting to do kits that either stimulate phase 1 or only look at phase 3, phase 2 is oftentimes the missing piece. So if you're stimulating phase 1, all those toxins are being released, or you're trying to move hormone metabolites, particularly estrogen that needs to move out of the body, kind of what we call dirty hormones,
Mhm.
starting in phase 1. If we don't move into phase 2, or we don't have the nutrients on board, like we have a really poor diet, we're not able to get B vitamins or, selenium and the things we need, or maybe we have a polymorphism, what we think of as a single nucleotide polymorphism, where we can't methylate B vitamins. About 50% of the population deal with that. Then all those toxins are going to be recirculating. We're going to start feeling really bad, and inflammation goes up, and you start to have what would be known as a reaction. A lot of times people say, oh, I'm reacting, I feel terrible. This is really where phase 1 and phase 2 are having problems.
Mhm. Right, right. Because you go in like, so I guess for listening purposes, when we're looking at phase 1, that's something that's done in the liver. That's the job of the liver, is to break down these hormones, break down these toxins. But then in phase 2, we need to have those toxins or those old hormones bound up so that they can move through the GI tract.
Yeah.
And you're right, those kits don't have that binding piece.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of the fibers that's going to help for sure. So there are some vegetables that will help with that as well. Do you recommend any kind of supplements to help for binding?
Well, I mean, I think to kind of clarify that when we go from phase one to phase two, we're really neutralizing and moving metabolites into, a different, basically molecular structure. And in that piece, I would say what we really need to have on board is methylated B vitamins. It's probably one of the key areas. So you can, if you methylate well, you can really look at any boracics or cruciferous vegetables are going to be an amazing piece in that area. To really get those neutralized, right? So we have to neutralize them first. And then when we come to really excreting them out into the gut, that's when we want to bind them so they don't recirculate back. So, that can really be any soluble fibers that you can think about, which is a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, like apples would be one. You'll see in a lot of detox kits, you'll see pectin. Well, apples are mostly pectin. So those would be some things. If you're detoxing heavy, you could look at greater binders like charcoal or chlorophyll. Charcoal should always be taken away from at least 2 hours before after food. Really before you could do a half hour, but you're risking binding up any nutrients that come in from your diet in charcoal. I think chlorophyll, at least in my experience, is a little easier on the body. It's a more I feel like a more natural way to detox because chlorophyll is found in a lot of green vegetables. And
Right.
so if you take it on board, it seems like the body knows what to do with it. But if you're going through a pretty intense detox or you're starting to feel really horrible, like when I work with clients who have SIBO, like we definitely have to have charcoal on board to bind up, just all the crap that's kind of coming out, especially the gut is in such an inflamed state. So those would be some ideas. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I really like the idea of using chlorophyll. I think that's fantastic. Charcoal is a heavy duty, oh, excuse me, heavy duty binder for sure.
It is. It can be
It is.
intense. Like it can either
Yeah.
kind of back you up and cause constipation or like
Yeah.
major diarrhea for some people. It's like, oh my gosh, this is
Right.
brutal. Take
Yes.
it at like 3 in the morning so you can away from everything.
Right. Right. But you do want to get that out because otherwise, like you said, we will reabsorb, everything that we're working so hard to get out of the body.
Yeah. Especially when we think like in where I'm working in menopause and really perimenopause is because we're having so much fluctuation in what's going on with estrogen. If we have these estrogen metabolites recirculating, it can show up as estrogen dominance and acne and just inflammation because we know it's kind of like we're set on fire at this point. And so that's really important in that stage three that we pull that excess estrogen that we no longer need that's already been used and prevent it from recycling. And the gut is a key area for that. So having really good gut health and then using things that are going to support detoxification like high fiber foods is really important.
Right. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, so methylation is absolutely important for detoxification in general, but there is, like you said, 50% of the population that struggles with methylation. In that case, what is their best route to improve?
That's a really good question. Honestly, the best route is to take methylated B vitamins, or you could also use the term activated B vitamins. So that's a B complex that has methylation to it. So usually you can kind of read that on the back, or, if you're at a grocery store like Natural Grocers or Whole Foods, someone in that, section can kind of help you look for an activated B vitamin complex, or if you're taking a multivitamin that you have activated B vitamins in that. Because what happens is that your body's not going, if you have this polymorphism, your body's not going to be able to produce what you need. And you can start seeing this is when we can maybe see autoimmune conditions or major things starting to happen. You have to have genetic testing to find out. So mostly people only find out once they're already sick that their body isn't able to process these. So I put all of my clients on a methylated B vitamin complex, either in a multi, because it's like, why? It's one less step for your body, even if you don't have this, right? You can have these. And then I would also say avoiding foods, highly processed foods are fortified, which is good to prevent birth defects. But folate and folic acid are two different things. And folic acid, which is really what we consider synthetic folate, can actually block this pathway. So even if you don't have this, we call them S&Ps, right? Single nucleotide polymorphisms. You can still have that pathway blocked by when you're consuming highly processed foods because folic acid is blocking it. So kind of getting those foods out of your diet to clear up the pathway where your body can naturally, send these methyl donors over and turn folate into methylfolate, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And you're right. I'm so glad you brought up the fortified food issue because it's in that synthetic folic acid is in so much. It's in cereal, it's in like every packaged wheat product. I think it's added to some oats. So
Yeah.
like you really, really have to read. And if we're ingesting that, then we're completely shutting down methylation, which is completely shutting down detoxification. And then we see, clients that are stuck with we're doing all the things and we cannot get the estrogen to progesterone right because it can't move.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think, we have those fortified foods for, populations that
Yeah,
need them, right, to prevent
right.
birth defects. And that's something that came out of kind of the Industrial Revolution, right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
that like so there's a purpose to them, but because we're eating more packaged foods than we ever have in the history of our nation and really the world,
Mhm.
this is becoming a bigger issue than it ever has been. And I don't think there was forethought, of course, back in I think it was the 40s when this first started, like when, women were out of the kitchens, men were at war, and then we got packaged food, then we started seeing birth defects. But now the packaged food, I mean, ultra processed and packaged food is like, I mean, it's crazy. It's a normal part of most people's diet. So yeah, now it's impacting us in a bigger way that I think we never thought about.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, and so that brings up a question too. So if we're getting all of our folic acid is coming from synthetic sources, but there are foods that contain folate. So if someone has this genetic mutation, can they take the foods that contain folate and use that, or does that also block methylation pathways?
So that's a good question and clarifying point. So if
Mhm.
someone has this genetic mutation, it's the MTHFR enzyme that they actually aren't producing. So even if you take in folate in its natural sources, these people who have this mutation don't produce the enzyme to turn. So I think that's methylene tetrahydrofolate. That's the enzyme. If they don't have that, they can't take folate and turn it into the active form methylfolate. So that's just exchanging hydrogen atoms for methyl donors, right? That's that exchange. You need an enzyme to do that. So the long answer is no, that you need to actually supplement at that point if you know you have this or you suspect it. And of course, when we start in the perimenopause transition or into menopause, we're under a lot of stress. Our body's using B vitamins at a higher level than ever before. And so having supplementation is going to be beneficial no matter what. But I should clarify, um, be complex as opposed to individual Bs because you don't want to get off balance. Sometimes, if you're taking just folate, and there can be causes to do that, then it can actually deplete your other B vitamins. So, taking a methylated B complex, so we're getting them in kind of an even, if we're going to supplement, we want to make sure that we're not dominating one over the other.
Yes, I think that was super important to highlight that as well, because I think when we're looking at things like we know things, but sometimes we don't think to elaborate because we know. So therefore we wouldn't put someone on just methylated folate because we know that they need the others as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just the methylated folate. That's really speaking specifically to this genetic
Mhm.
mutation. We need to methylate a lot of other B vitamins as well in our body. And so, yeah, having all of them. And you're right. Sometimes when we're in these conversations, we don't think to say, oh, wait, wait, we need to have all of them on board.
Right, right. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we do. And there is, I found a really nice complex on Amazon that we use with our clients. And I don't remember, it's the MHTFR brand something. I don't remember what
Yeah.
the something part is, but it is an entirely methylated complex. So yes, please, all my clients take this because I don't know whether you have that mutation or not. And it's not going to hurt you. Like you said, it actually makes it a little easier on your body.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only caveat is most B vitamins are water soluble, so you're going to excrete what you can't use.
Right.
B12 is fat soluble, it is held in the liver. And there's a reason why, because we need it for synapses in our brain. And so once we're completely depleted on B12, it can actually be a permanent problem, like a permanent brain damage can happen. So our body will hold on to it. So if you're taking these for long periods of time and you don't feel your body's using them, when you have your monthly or not monthly, yearly blood work, just make sure you get your B12 checked and then see, because we want to stay in range on B12. That would be the only one that's really held in the body. The rest of them, water soluble, we're getting rid of what we can't use. That's why
Mhm.
B vitamins, we have every day we need to be eating foods that have these, or supplementing, or both, because our body's just using them really quickly and we're excreting what can't be used that day, and then we have to redo it all again the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and the complex is great, but like you said, if we're not using it right away, our body just eliminates it. What would be good food sources of B12? I know like plant-based wise, we have pretty much nutritional yeast.
Yeah,
And I think this is
Nooch is kind
fortified.
of the only one that has it. B12 primarily comes from red meat, but also you can find it in some seafood, some chicken. So yeah, if I know you're, vegan, and so supplementing here is really important, because usually about 3 years in, statistically, we know vegetarians and vegans about 3 years in are almost 100% depleted in B12, which can then affect brain function and other things, right?
Right.
And I think also, to add to that, B12 needs astringent factor, which is something that happens in our gut to move it into our cell, to bring it into our bloodstream. And so also, if you're, vegetarian, having really healthy gut is going to help you absorb what B12 that you're getting. If it nooch would be the, gosh, I can't think of any other sources besides that. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Right? Yeah, yeah, no, I've supplemented like forever because like, when you're younger and you're like first learning anything, bees are always recommended for energy. And with 4 kids, I've never had any energy. So I think I've been taking a B complex for I don't know, for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. Your body needs it.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Um, Oh, that's crazy. No, I was going to ask you. Okay. Oh, so going back to a healthy gut. So this is huge, and like gut function can really take a hit during perimenopause too.
Yes.
But then like we have the methylation and the detoxification that are, all part of our gut health. But if gut health has taken a hit, what are some easy steps that, our listeners could possibly implement to start improving gut health, even just a tiny bit, which is going to, help improve these other factors as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is really tough when we get into perimenopause. It's shown that our gut microbiome diversity, so that's all the bacterias and viruses and things that live in our gut, is it changes and it becomes less diverse. So this is kind of our first problem, is that diversity really helps us digest different foods and fibers and all that. So improving diversity can really help. So that's really, I always like to speak to one of the main things and best things that we can do naturally is fermented vegetables. And so not just fermented dairy, which can be good, particularly if you make it homemade, but fermented vegetables are going to be a powerhouse to support our microbiome, because not only do they give us prebiotics, so that's the fiber, they give us probiotics, right? That's the fermentation process, but they actually give us macrobiotics, which that's going to be where they can take up housing in our gut and actually change and the diversity in our gut. So, like if you just take a probiotic supplement, it's transient. It works the day you take it, but it doesn't actually take up housing and change the baseline of our microbiome. So, because that's something that's built from the time we're born, breastfeed, first foods, antibiotics, right? So, how can we actually change our microbiome for the positive? Fermented vegetables is going to be one great way. And, I should also mention that our gut supports estrogen metabolism. And so
Mhm.
when we're in perimenopause and we start to see gut problems, then we're also having problems metabolizing estrogen and also some progesterone too. So like that can be a good place to start. Not everyone likes fermented vegetables, but I promise you get used to them if you don't like them.
Right. And there are quite a few sources like you mentioned that sauerkraut, there's kimchi, and then there's even like regular pickled vegetables, like there's onions and green beans and carrots and asparagus. And there should be something you can find that you like.
Yeah, and so actually, pickled vegetables and fermented vegetables are going to be two separate things.
Right.
Pickled they're great. They're still healthy and they kind of add to our vegetable, like we're getting vegetables, but they're not actually live active ferments. And
Okay.
so, and that's a common thing that it's like, oh, so they're in vinegar. Fermented vegetables are going to be in saltwater brine that are in the refrigerated section. And so the cultures are actually live. But you're right, you can still find usually radishes, carrots, and onions in that category with kimchi and sauerkraut. And now there's starting to be like Wild Brine has some fermented salsas, which I adore because that's
Okay.
like tomatoes and peppers and,
Yeah, that would be more fun.
yeah. And especially like there's some kimchis I like, but like I really don't enjoy Korean kimchi. It's like texturally I really struggle with it. But I want something spicy too sometimes. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. There's salsa now. I haven't seen that yet. Um, oh my gosh, there was one thing else that you said that had a good question, and now it's left my mind. Um,
It'll come back.
it will come back. You brought up probiotics, which I think is good to distinction that they don't actually like live in our gut. They're just kind
Yeah.
of passing through. I think a lot of people don't understand that. I also kind of don't like, this is me personally, but I don't like to just throw a blanket probiotic. Like we have a lot going on in our gut. And sometimes when we have a lot of bacteria, if we're just, duplicating what we have, we're not improving anything. It's just kind of wasting your money.
Yeah, I think this is a good point because probiotics are really expensive.
They are.
And I think they have a place and purpose depending on what health issue you're dealing with, like to get someone over the hump or to the other side, right?
Right.
Particularly when we think about soil probiotics or spore probiotics, that those can actually take up housing
Mhm.
in our microbiome. But a lot of what people are buying, it's really going to help you feel better that day or get you to where you want to be, but it's not actually impacting the integrity of the gut. And so that's something that we really have to work on. And so I should say that one thing that really impacts the integrity of the gut is excess sugar. Sugar
Mhm.
completely destroys the gut and those tight junctions that we need to have, really good kind of mucosal membranes, right? um, or that mucosal barrier there. And so, even going one step further to say, yes, we can, have probiotic or macrobiotic rich foods, but if we're still consuming garbage,
Right.
it's kind of like, and that's where you'll sometimes see a lot of probiotic use where it's like, oh, I'm just going to take a supplement, but I'm still going to eat, the things that are maybe causing some inflammation and damage, which that's another like big subject, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of mental work right there too. Um, but like as far as improving the bacterias in our gut, we have those fermented foods that will help with that. But also, like but different bacterias need different types of fiber, and that's going to come from different types of food. So another thing
Yeah.
that I see a lot is like we get stuck on, these like sets of food, and that is also then contributing to lower diversity in our gut because we're not getting in a variety of foods.
That's so true. That's so funny. I just was doing a consult yesterday speaking about variety is really important, like eating seasonally and like not getting stuck in like buying the same three, broccoli, bananas, and onions or whatever. We having that diversity, you're so right. It's important. And it also not just important for our gut, but all of those different foods have different nutrients and minerals and vitamins and antioxidants. And so eating seasonally and really, you know, I guess spicing things up a little bit because I think we can get stuck in chicken and broccoli and whatever's easy and healthy and like that's it. For people who are oftentimes on a health kick, I just need it to be easy and fast, but sometimes we can miss things there. Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah. But a lot of things can be easy and fast. I think we just have to take a moment and think about it, instead of just falling back on the same, 10 things that we always eat.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely hard, especially when people aren't interested in meal prep or, recipe development, or they're just not into it, then there's like kind of a barrier, there's a rub there. Well, I want to do it, but it's just like another step. So yeah,
Mhm.
the time commitment, but I think you can see great improvements. And just like what you said, instead of picking up strawberries, pick up raspberries or,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, just try something a little bit different. Like, I don't know. Broccoli is hard for me. Like, I love broccoli, but I know like sometimes I need to take a break from it and maybe have some green beans or do zucchini or cabbage even. But just something that's different.
Definitely. We all get in our food ruts and we get busy and just, whatever we can batch cook or get ready for the week. Broccoli is one of the easy ones and it's particularly great frozen. Frozen broccoli is like so easy. You can dump it in any soup and anything you're doing and it's super healthy. And so, yeah, we can definitely get caught in ruts. But there's so many good, like right now, we're seeing, of course, a lot of brassicas coming in. And so this is the time to eat them. But coming in at Christmas time, we're going to start to see even Thanksgiving and Christmas, a lot of herbs and citrus and foods that we don't get a lot of. I mean, at least for me, I live in a very wintry area, so it's like I'm always like citrus is coming.
I know. And we're warmer here. So like when the apples finally start looking healthy again, I'm like, oh yay.
Right? I know. Yeah,
They don't look very appealing during the summer.
I bet not. Yeah, too hot.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But again, that goes back to like as part of seasonal eating. So sometimes when we have these cravings, for certain foods, it's your body's talking to you, and it does that. On a cellular level, your body knows what it needs, and if we would slow down and listen to it, it might help our overall health a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a big thing I talk about in my company and on my podcast is that we need to listen to the messages our body is telling us. And, it's okay. It's okay if your diet is a little bit different than your friends, or, we want to make it personalized where it's what you enjoy, but it's also what your actual body needs and how you process things and how you manage stress. And I think oftentimes we just kind of like, what do I need to do? Give me the list. And then we're kind of executing that without really thinking, what, like when I crave chocolate, I know I'm potentially low on magnesium or iron. Like, oh man. I'm like, I'm premenstrual or I'm coming in and it's like chocolate, like it's all I think about. Like I want chocolate and peanut butter. I think about chocolate in my yogurt, like chocolate chips in my yogurt. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I need to increase magnesium and iron right now. like, um,
Same. And I really wish my clients would accept that instead of feeling bad. Like you don't need to feel guilty for eating chocolate. You maybe need to learn to like dark chocolate.
yeah.
But like,
Find a better source of chocolate. Yeah.
right, but you don't have to feel bad. And chocolate in and of itself is not bad. In fact, no foods are good and no foods are bad because they have no moral value. There's foods that are good for your body and make you feel better, and there's foods that probably make you not feel so good.
Yeah.
But like there's really no good foods and bad foods.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. And I think that it's more comes down to good choices and bad choices. Like you can choose to support your body and how
Exactly.
you want to feel, or like when I know I'm consuming something that's not going to make me feel great, I know full well what I'm doing. I'm
Exactly.
making the choice.
Right.
And that's a big difference than putting the guilt factor, like doing it and then feeling guilty later. It's like, well,
Right.
I knew in the moment. And so it's kind of that change in perspective, right? To get out of that. I hate that shame and guilt that so many women deal with. And I think it's just a lack of not knowing and just like, oh, and sometimes maybe women have been on so many different diets that they take one piece from this and one from that. And so it's almost like they're guilty with everything they're doing. So kind of working that out can be helpful.
Yeah, I think that is 1000% accurate. And it's kind of maddening because like this is now our industry. We're here, and somehow it got to this point where women are afraid to eat, to not eat, to eat this, to not eat that, to exercise or not exercise, and it's well, it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's distorted by the diet industry, which is, I think, $180 billion a year industry. I mean, they don't
Yes.
want people healthy.
No.
Otherwise, their machine isn't going to work. And so I think diet culture has really messed with our minds. And I think food is really closely related to our psychology and our moods and how we feel and our family culture. And there's so much there that when it starts being messed with either food manufacturing or the diet culture of what we should and shouldn't do, it does take a psychological toll. And I think that um what is that term I'll use sometimes where it's just always on women's mind, that they're just circulate all the time what I should and shouldn't do, and just always kind of going over and over in their head. And this really leads, unfortunately, to potentially eating disorders. We know that the two biggest time for eating disorders for women is their teenage years and going in perimenopause. Your body's changing, all
Yeah.
these things. And then so the first thing we do is, okay, I'm just not going to eat. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to eat, so I'm not going to eat anything. Like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely that extreme. And then I've seen the other two where it's like, you're at a certain age, you've done however many things you've done in your life. So why does it matter anymore what you eat?
Yes. I mean, I can relate to that because of my chronic past, health issues. I
Mm,
had to be on so many specialty diets at certain points in my life that I can feel like, yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. And so, but I have to kind of check myself because I want to feel good every day. It's like,
right.
so, but I can relate. The older you get, it's kind of like if you, you don't really care, then
Mm,
it's almost like a worse problem. Then we go into that overweight kind of, and even women can be overweight and make good choices. It's not always that black and white, but
oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it is hard though, like when you've done a lot of things throughout your life, like you said, with the different restrictions. I think it can be kind of challenging. And maybe these women haven't had, some of the health conditions that you've had, but I think with being on a lot of strict diets, like, you go
Yeah.
and you eat this little and then you rebound and then you eat this little and then you rebound and then you
Yeah.
have that compounded by the changes in hormones in perimenopause that affects, well, literally like every fucking in your life. Like,
I know, I know.
like just everything.
Perimenopause hell.
Yes. Yeah, no, oh my God, like your
Yeah.
sleep, your mood, your libido, your digestion, how your body looks, how it acts, how it responds, like your performance, like all of
Yeah.
it.
How you think, like,
Yeah, if you're thinking,
brain fog. I know. It's so true. And I think you're right that between diet culture and then seeing these massive changes that women aren't necessarily prepared for. Like when I started perimenopause early, and I think I probably came in thinking like, oh, this is like a 1 day transition. 1 day on my period and 1 day I don't. Like, I don't know. I didn't give it any major thought. And so
right.
when it hit, it was like, whoa, it's like a hurricane kind of nailing me. And I think a lot of women feel like that. And then, yeah, throwing diet culture on or these detox kits or, just kind of throwing whatever you can at it almost makes things worse. It's like, how can we,
Mm.
work with women to even this out and start to get some stability so they can start to feel better sooner.
Right. No, you're right. It does very often make things worse. And it's not necessarily because they're doing the wrong things. It's just maybe because their body is, it's in a different place. Like you said in the very
Yeah.
beginning, everybody's body is different. Body is going to respond differently. Everybody has a different genetic makeup. And maybe the supplement you are taking or the food approach that you're taking isn't right for your body. And I think that's
Yeah.
where, a practitioner can come in and help you look at all this overwhelming crap and, figure out a path where you can slowly and systematically start to, well, get your life back.
Totally. And that you hit the nail on the head, get your life back, because like you see out on social, it's like, and I have so many women come to me and say, I bought, 5 supplements on Instagram,
Yeah.
but it's not working. And I'm like, okay, this isn't they like you can't supplement your way to health when you have a bunch of disordered eating and everything is out of order and you don't to be fair, a lot of people don't know, well, what is the first right step? What can I
Mhm.
do? And I think you're right, just having a practitioner, someone who can do an overview and go, okay, I can kind of see, I've worked with enough women to see this is where we need to go. This is going to help you the most. Let's try this and kind of work in conjunction, meet them where they are, walk with them, as opposed to telling them what they have to do. Because I think who wants to be told what to do when you already feel bad? Like, oh, because that makes you kind of feel worse that you've been doing stuff wrong. So just, working together with women can be so important. And that's why I love the work that you're doing out there in the world and seeing other women practitioners who are helping women in this time where I think it's estimated now 1.5 billion women are in perimenopause or will be, and maybe 0.5 billion more in the next 5 years. It's a lot of women who need, some guidance. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Some guidance can be extremely nice. It can certainly save you a lot of headache.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, get your life back sooner. Like I have so many women who say to me, I wish I wouldn't have waited. And it's so true. Whenever you have a health thing, and I think it's natural for us to, I can deal with this, I can figure this out
Yeah,
until we can't, right?
right.
Yeah.
Right. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
I think we covered, some pretty good foundations of detox and healthy eating and even possibly managing menopause because a lot of the perimenopause symptoms go back to detoxification because if we
Yeah.
can't get rid of, like you said, those wildly fluctuating hormones, they're just recirculating, which is just adding to our problems.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. I think one of the pieces I missed for a long time in my own health is properly detoxifying. And for me, like I'm estrogen dominant. And so it's like if you're dealing with people who have PCOS or endometriosis and they're already estrogen dominant and they're not looking at those detox pathways, they just start to feel worse and worse and worse. Then coming into perimenopause and everything, is going all haywire. Like you said, estrogen touches every cell in our body, right? And that endocrine system. And so detox is a big missing piece. So I'm glad that you brought that to light today.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think this was a fantastic conversation. Thanks for joining us again, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Was there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to share with our audience today?
I mean, I don't think so. I think we hit a lot of topics in different ways, so a lot of food for thought
Yeah, it is
for
definitely.
women.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say, I have a guide called Perimenopause Hell and How to Overcome It. So it's like just something simple women can use and download, if they're interested in taking that first next right step.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, send me the link for that and we'll put it underneath the episode so people can find that.
I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us again, Lindsay. We can go ahead and wrap up another great episode.